Hello, this is QuickBooks Online Certification Exam Section 3 of 5. The topics I'll be covering are customer statements, credit memos, payments, deposits, accountant tools, journal entries, and some workflow questions. All right, so let's look at customer column in the plus sign new link that you get on the navigation pane. So these are all the features that are under the customer column, the first column on the left when you hit plus sign new. This is right out of your training section, and it just kind of goes over the transaction type and then where it posts to. For example, invoice, that's when you bill a credit customer. So it says it's sales on account and it posts to accounts receivable. So I'm not going to read all of this. It is in your training section, but this goes over all the different customer features and the plus sign new section. Now the sales workflow. It has the following steps. You make a sale. That would either be going to plus sign new for sales receipt if it's cash, or if you have a billing customer, you go plus sign invoice, or you might start off with an estimate that you convert to an invoice. Then you would create sales receipts and record them to undeposited funds, or you would receive payment from your invoice and then you would deposit that to undeposited funds. And that would be the plus sign new sales receipt or plus sign new, and then you created your invoice, then when plus sign new received payment. Now you would bring the money to the bank and you would create a deposit transaction then in QuickBooks Online, so you could take it from undeposited funds to deposited funds, and then you would match that bank deposit to the bank feed in QuickBooks Online. So this is the sales workflow. The next topic is customer statements. That's a list of customer transactions, including invoices, payment received, credit applied, and balances. There are 3 different types of customer statements your client can create in QuickBooks Online. That's balance forward, open item, and transaction statement. So balance forward is a statement that shows a list of invoices and payments with the balance for the date range selected. The open invoice statement is where you have a list of all open and unpaid invoices. And this would show all unpaid invoices, unpaid payments, and any credit memos to their customers. And the last one is transaction statement, to show all the transactions between the customer and the client between 2 set dates. To create and send a customer statement, you would go to the Sales tab in the navigation pane and select Customer. Check the customer or customers you would like to make the statements for. And under the Batch Action drop-down, which you'll see in the top left, you would see you can create statements, email, make it active. You would select Create Statements, and then you would set the date fields for the statement. Then you make sure that the customer email address is correct, and then you would go down to the bottom right and select Save and Send. So here's some questions you might see on these topics. Which 3 types of customer statements can QuickBooks Online generate? Well, we just looked at that table. You can have a statement that shows balance forward, a statement that shows only open transactions, and show a statement of all payments. A client wants to send out a statement that reflects all unpaid invoices, unapplied payments, and unapplied credit memos. So we saw that was the one in the middle, the second one. So that statement type would be open item. Customer credit. A credit memo is a posting transaction that can be applied to a customer's invoice as part or full payment. A credit memo doesn't refund the customer, so it's not a money out transaction. Credit memos reduce the accounts receivable, but it's not cash. So to record a credit memo, you'd go to plus sign new credit memo, or you can go to sales, all sales, new transaction, and select credit memo. Fill in the sections, customer, product service, quantity, and amount, and then you would select Save and Close. By default, QuickBooks Online automatically applies the value of any credit memos to the existing or new customer invoices. This feature is controlled by the automatically applied credit setting in the Advanced tab of Accounts and Settings. This setting is great for clients with simple accounts receivables, for instance, just a few invoices per customer. However, clients who have higher volume or more complex account receivable workflows should use it with caution. If clients want to apply credit manually, they would have to disable the slider in the Accounts and Settings section, Advanced tab, where it says Automatically Apply Credits. So here's a visualization of that. You go to Accounts and Setting, you go down to the bottom tab, Advanced, and in the Automation section, you would take the slider and turn it off and then click Save if you wanted to disable it. So let's look at the questions you might see. QuickBooks Online automatically applies the value of any credit memo to existing or new customer invoices. This feature is set to On by default. If a client wants to apply credit manually, where would they go to disable this feature? So it has different ways it might say, but bottom line, it's Account and Settings, Advanced, and Automation. It might say something like Automation in the Advanced tab of Account and Settings. So just know this is the actual step and sequence, but they might write it backwards. So just have it in your notes. Customer payments. QuickBooks Payments allows clients to email invoices containing a payment button that enables their customers to pay online instantly. Clients can also accept payments from their customers over the phone if they have a signed authorization form on file. With the feature, clients can also set recurring invoices to be automatically sent and paid. At the same time, QuickBooks Online automatically matches payments with invoices to save time. Setting up is easy. You would go to gear icon, Account and Settings, and then in the Payment tab, you would select Get Set Up. There are 3 sections to be complete. Select Start, and there's Business Info section. Then you would go Next, and there's the Personal. Next, connecting to the client's bank, and then next, finally, select Active Payments. QuickBooks Payments is also known as QuickBooks Merchant Services, or Intuit Merchant Services, or Intuit Check Solution. Clients with one of these accounts can easily connect their QuickBooks Payment account to their QuickBooks Online account. Clients on a direct billed plan can connect their existing merchant account in the Billing and Subscription tab in Accounts and Settings. Once a client has set up and activated QuickBooks Payments, they can add it as a payment method on invoices and sales receipts. To do this, they first need to set up a payment method as follows. So they go to Gear icon, select All Lists, and then Payment Methods. Select a payment method from the list, let's say Visa. Then from the drop-down, next to Run Reports, you would select Edit. Enable the checkbox for where it says this is a credit card. And then you would need to set up each payment separately. Sales receipts and invoice payments can now be processed by QuickBooks Payments when the client chooses Visa as the payment method. You would have to go back and do each individual one, let's say MasterCard, checking, and whatever you want to accept. Note, the client would need to repeat this process for any other payment methods that they want to work with QuickBooks Payments. So I said that twice. Sending an invoice to a customer via email. When the client creates an invoice, they select how they'd like to get paid. So again, credit card or ACH or both. Once the client has filled in the invoice detail, they can send it via email to their customer to make payment. When the customer receives the email, they can then tap Review and Pay to view the invoice in the browser. When the customer has filled in the payment details, then they select Pay Amount. The customer receives a pay confirmation and can print or download the receipt directly from the browser. What if the customer doesn't want to pay immediately? If the client wants QuickBooks Online to automatically take the payment from their account at a later date, they can then use Payment Date box at the bottom of the screen to schedule it. Note, the customers do not need an Intuit account to use the Schedule Pay feature. However, if they check the Save Payment Method to pay faster next time box, they will be asked to create one to store their payment info for future use. After the payment is made, the client receives notification through QuickBooks Online mobile app and email. If customers pay clients at the time of sale, there's no need to create and send an invoice. Instead, the payment would be recorded as a sales receipt, because remember, sales receipt represents sales with cash up front. The client just needs to record the payment method and necessary information. So as you see here, you would go to sales receipt, and then under here, that's where you would have enter credit card details and process credit card. Clients using QuickBooks Payments have access to 3 additional features that make things faster: payment links, instant deposits, and QuickBooks Go Payment. Payment links are single-use links that clients can send to their customers in emails or messages. Each link automatically expires once the customer is paid. Payment links are great if your client expects their customer to pay straight away. If the client doesn't need the customer to pay immediately, or the customer has payment terms with the client, an online payment option added to invoice would be better. The client must have a QuickBooks Payment account for those features. Once paid, the client can look at the paid sales receipt in the payment links list. They can be sent by email, text message, or via QR code. QuickBooks Payments Instant Deposit feature allows for an additional charge of 1% per transaction, where variable funds can be instantly deposited into the client's designated bank account. Clients can deposit a minimum of $1 or a maximum of $2,000 up to 3 times a day, as long as they don't exceed the daily $2,000 limit. So again, payment links are single-use links, and they are looked at as sales receipts. So if you wanted to give your customer more time, you would actually set up an invoice. All right, and when we say they expire, they only expire after the customer paid. So once you send a payment link, the link itself does not have an expiring date. It just expires when your customer pays it. All right, note for instant deposit, clients can also schedule instant deposits for certain days of the week. To do this, they should go to step 1, account and settings. Step 2, select the payment tab and go to deposit speed section, as you see here. And then you would select, you can come over to change, and then they would bring you to select which days you wanted. Payment links, instant deposit, the next one is Go Payments, right? Let's see. Now actually they're talking about the instant deposit schedule. This is where you would select, and then they had, if you selected all days, this is where you would select which days you wanted. And so in the step 4, in the set up your deposit schedule, pop-up windows has you select the days you want instant deposits for, and then at the bottom you would select Save Schedule. And the last one, Go Payments. So clients who use QuickBooks Payments can also use QuickBooks Go Payments, a mobile point of sale app. They are allowed to have clients accept payments on the go using their mobile devices with a Connect card reader. To download the app, clients must need to search for the QuickBooks Go Payments in their mobile app store. So here's a little article on that. So this is our Intuit App Store, and it's talking about QuickBooks Go Payments. So swipe rates starting as low as 1.6%. So pay as you go, only paying per transaction. You can have 50 users, and this is the price rates here. Low monthly rates, you would save more per transaction. So these are people who probably are making more in volume, then they would have this rate. And then if we look at the reviews, as I showed you in the last time, they're not that great. I think there's a lot of areas that need to be worked on, and hopefully in time they will. But I wish the other one I showed you was, what is it? Not the bill.com. Oh, the Melio. Melio had a horrible rating as well. Again, I think, QuickBooks is going to be working on certain areas. I think this is one of the areas, as well as payroll. All right. Setting up recurring payments using QuickBooks Payments. If clients have configured QuickBooks Payments to work with a credit card, ACH, Visa, or MasterCard, they can set up a recurring charge that will automatically be sent to customers. They can do this by setting up a recurring sales receipt that will automatically record the sale in QuickBooks Online and deposit funds into the client's bank account. This is a great way of automatically billing and getting paid for services such as monthly maintenance plans or service agreements. However, the client must have written authorization from their customer to charge a recurring amount. The authorization form appears automatically when saving a new recurring sales receipt. So you would go to the gear icon, account and settings, recurring transactions, new, sales receipt, and then click OK. As you're creating a recurring sales receipt, you need to specify how often or on what date QuickBooks Online should send it to the customer. Enter these details in the interval section, then select payment method, select the methods, that's supposed to be methods, and then select the enter sales card details. Spelling error, methods. When you added the credit card details, ensure that the process credit card box is checked. This tells QuickBooks Online to process payments via QuickBooks Payments, and then select Save. To allow customers to use the Autopay function, clients need to set up a recurring invoice in the following way. They need to go to an invoice template. Currently, Autopay only supports recurring invoices. From the type drop-down, they need to select scheduled. Then they need to check the automatically send emails option. And in the online payment section, they need to define which payment methods the customer can use with Autopay. When the customer receives the invoice by mail and selects the review and pay button, they have the option to check that Autopay box before selecting the pay button. With the Autopay enabled, QuickBooks Online takes care of all future payments related to this recurring invoice. Note that if a customer doesn't have an Intuit account, they will be prompted to first create one before they can proceed because they're choosing that Autopay. Okay, so QuickBooks can automatically match bank deposits with corresponding QuickBooks payment transactions. You can find and view details on automatically matched transactions in the Banking Center under the Categorized or Reviewed tab. To turn automatic matching off or on, you would select the gear icon. I don't know if you could see it here, but in the Banking Center, you have the little gear icon. It's all the way here to the right. And then when you select that, you would see the automatic matching, and you would, right over here, automatic matching, and you would either slide that on or off depending on what you want to do. So here's some questions. Customer payments. All right, so if your client wants to enable Autopay for their customer, what 3 setup steps are required? First, you set up a scheduled recurring invoice template. Then the recurring invoice is set to auto email the customer. And then finally, enable online payments on the recurring invoice template. What can be said about payment links in QuickBooks Online? Each payment link remains active until the customer has paid it. What type of transaction is recorded when a customer pays via a payment link? A sales receipt. In what 3 ways can a payment link be delivered to a customer? Email, text message, or via QR code? If a client wishes to set up Autopay, what 2 actions are required? Check the box to turn on Autopay and sign into or create an Intuit account. And remember, that's your customer doing that. Where can a client identify the instant deposit options for their QuickBooks Payments account? You go to gear icon, accounts and settings, and payment tab. And what I mean by customer would be your client's customer. So your client sends it to the customer, and when they go to a review and pay, that's when they select Autopay, and then they would have to either create an Intuit account or sign into one. And the last one, how many times are customers able to pay or make a payment via a payment link before it expires? It's once the payment is made, the link expires. So that would be one time. You'd only have one time because once you've made that payment, the link expires. With QuickBooks Payment Instant Deposit option, what percentage of the transaction value do clients pay to use this option? 1%. Vendor's credit. Vendor credit in QuickBooks Online allows your customers or your clients to record credits to vendors' accounts payable so they could apply them to existing or future bills received from that vendor. A vendor credit can be either applied to an existing bill or held open until it is applied to a future bill. By default, QuickBooks Online automatically applies the vendor's credit to the oldest bill for that vendor. If a client wants to apply the credit manually, they could disable that option by going to the Advanced tab in Account Settings and disabling the automatically applied credit slider. So just like you could have done that with invoices we saw a minute ago, now you would do it up here with automatically applied credits. You would just turn that off. Once you've disabled automatically apply credits, then after creating a vendor credit, the client has to manually choose the bill to apply the credit to on the Pay Bill screen. To do this, you'd have step 1. You go to plus sign new and then vendor credit. Alternatively, although I don't know why you would do this, but alternatively, you can go to new transaction from the expenses section, the expenses center, and then select vendor credit. In the vendor credit screen, from the vendor dropdown, select the vendor that you're going to have the credit for. Next, fill out the payment date, the item details grid, the product service column, the description column box, the rate, and the quantity of the credited item. In the customer column, add the customer the item was ordered for. In the memo fields, your client can add any additional notes. Then select Save. Step 2 would be to apply the credit to a bill. So from the left-hand navigation, you would select Expenses. Here your client can see the vendor credit and the original bill. Find the original bill of the returned item. Select the drop-down icon in the action column all the way on the right, and then select Mark as Paid. In the bill payment screen, you can see that the QuickBooks Online has already applied the vendor credit, reducing the amount payable. Here's 2 questions. What are 2 ways to use a vendor credit in QuickBooks Online? Apply it to an existing bill or hold on to it and apply it to a future bill? What 2 ways can you access the vendor credit screen in QuickBooks Online? You can go + new vendor credit, which most people do, or you can go to Expenses Center, select New Transaction, and from that drop-down you'll see vendor credit. Accountant tools and accountant-specific tasks. So I took a little snapshot. You see, Nicole, the business behind here, it says instructor. I did a little snapshot of the account tools. And I have this Intuit blog on accountant tools. So let's look at this. I was looking for a date, but I didn't see a date on this, but there wasn't too many articles on this. So Accountant Toolbox. The Accountant Toolbox is, and you see that I was thinking this might have been a little older because they had it set up like this instead of the quick links. Let me go back to what I'm talking about. So over here, we actually have it now as quick links and then the tools. So I did notice that it has the old school way. It hasn't been this way in a while, so I thought maybe this might be a little outdated. But I was just looking for something that broke it down, each one, and it did. This article did. So reclassifying transaction, you use this tool to find out transactions that have been assigned to incorrect accounts or classes and reclassify them in batches. Then you have voided and deleted transactions. That accesses the pre-filtered audit log for voided and deleted transactions and make additional customization. Then you have write-off invoices. You can remove invoices and reverse any revenue amounts with only a few clicks. Journal entries. Everyone should know what those are. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. Closing book procedures, reconciling or undoing them. Accountant reports and management reports, pretty much, you know. My custom reports, reports tools, chart of accounts, and multiple windows. And then down here, it talks about adjusting entries, tax mapping, and then the Pro Connect tax features. All right, so here's some questions. Oh, no, wait, have we gotten to the questions? Yes, we did. Which user has access to voided deleted transaction tool? The accountant user. Which accountant tool in QuickBooks Online Accountant helps identify transactions that may have been removed accidentally from the company file? That would be the voided deleted transaction. And then what 2 tools can be used to identify possible issues in a QuickBooks Online company? Well, one is the voided deleted transaction tools. That would be accountant only. And then for those of you who've seen my class, my 10 video class, you would have seen me take note of where the transaction journal report is. It's if you go to any like let's say invoice check and you go down to the bottom of the screen, there's like a little tab there and you'll see the word more. If you click on the word more, you know, things pop up, you can delete, and one of them says transaction journal. So if you click on the transaction journal, this could be seen by all users. That's where it brings you down to the journal report, and it'll show you the actual journal entry for that particular transaction. So if you know something came up as, you know, this isn't right or it's not reconciling or whatever the problem or issue may be, but you've identified what it is, one of the first things I do with students is say, go down to the bottom, let's look at the transaction journal and see what accounts were affected by this. And maybe from there we can decide what needs to be done. Bank deposit options. Clients sometimes receive deposits that aren't related to customer transactions. Some examples are refunds, cash contributions from owners, or proceeds from a loan. Adding these as income deposits would lead to confusion and inaccuracies for future tax payments. Simply put, deposit transactions are used for any monies coming into the business that isn't subject to sales tax or income tax and doesn't have to be matched to a sales receipt or invoice in QuickBooks Online. However, clients still need to record and categorize these transactions to the appropriate accounts on the chart of accounts. When would a client use deposit transactions? Here are some cases when they may need to use that. Clients receive funds from a loan proceed. So you got a small business loan or bank loan, then you would put a manual entry in there. Contributions of cash from owners, or clients receive a refund from a vendor and wants to record it directly against the expense account or to a refund received income account. The client doesn't record income using sales transactions. let's say invoices or sales receipt, and wants to record the deposits directly to the income accounts. The client receives a refund from a tax agency and needs to record it to reduce the tax liability or expense account. Or an employee reimburses the client's company and the client needs to record the reimbursement against the employee's loan receivable account. Clients can also use the deposit transaction workflow with negative deposits. So let's say you had a bounced check or a customer refund amount exceeds the amount they're depositing. I know something they mentioned before in the training, which they left out this time, was when you have several deposits for one large deposit for several different accounts. But they took that out, so I don't know why. I think they took it out of the test question as well. Banking tabs. There are 5 tabs in the Banking Center. Explore them in the test drive to become familiar with each tab. The Receipt tab, the one all the way here on the right, we looked at the last one, we looked at the banking, and that's where we saw the tiles, and we were looking at the order and so on. We'll be looking at rules and tags in depth in a future video. And then here, the Receipt tab, that's where you would display bills and receipts. So let's look at 2 questions that we have here. In which scenario would you use a bank deposit transaction? I have them all listed in the previous slide. Well, 2 slides, 35, slide number 35, but I put 2 down over here. When your client wants to record, let's say, an SBA loan, small business loan, that they received, or any cash contributions from owners. But you saw the list there, so it can be several different of them. In which tab of the Banking Center do bills and receipts appear after they are added? That would be the Receipts tab. I showed you the 5 tabs. That would be the Receipts tab. Workflow. So we have the receipt forward. So let's say you're out. Let's say you have, small business and you're always constantly out and you have a receipt that you have in your hand that you want to claim. But paper can easily be lost and you're always on the road. So you say, you know what, let me take a picture. So you can take a quick picture and you can forward it from an email. You can upload it from your Google Drive, or you can upload it from a computer. So you can email it to yourself and then upload it later from your computer. So these are your options in, remember I said on the 5th tab over in the receipts, this is where you would have your receipt. So we have 3 options. Upload it from the computer, and you would select the file and drop it here. Or you can upload it from your Google Drive account, which you would link in, and then you could forward an email. You would need to set up your receipt forwarding by clicking there and putting your proper email there. Another workflow feature that we'll look at is pay down credit card feature. This is a client-friendly language to help clients make the right choices and avoid some of the most common mistakes with credit card payments. It ensures these charges are categorized correctly as a credit card liability and not as an expense. I've actually had a few clients that were a little confused on credit cards and where they stand, and I would explain it really is, a liability. You're using it as cash, but you have to pay that back. To use the pay down credit card feature, you're going to select +sign new, and then you're going to choose pay down credit card from the last column. Your clients may have multiple company-owned bank accounts for different purchases. We're going to look at transfer of funds. Again, if you took my class, you would know exactly what you would need to do here because we have a loan that got transferred to a checking account. So they need to make sure that their books correctly reflect what happened when they transferred funds between accounts. When moving money between a savings account or a checking account or paying down a loan, the transfer function in QuickBooks Online makes it easy for clients to set up transfers between balance sheet accounts. So it has to be balance sheet accounts. It can't be between you and a vendor. So to do a transfer fund, you would go to +sign new, and then you would go to transfer. Sales workflow. So the sales workflow is, as we spoke about earlier, creating a sales receipt or creating an invoice and a receive payment. For the vendor payment workflow, you would either pay your vendor by writing a check, or when they send you the bill, you would input the bill, and later you would pay the bill. So these 2 are 2-step processes, and these are 1-step process because it just directly deals with cash. In sales receipt, you're just receiving cash, and in writing a check, you're just writing out the check. But in these 2, it's a 2-step process in that first you write out the invoice, and then you get the receipt payment. In this one, you first acknowledge the bill, and then you later pay the bill. It needs to be one or the other. You cannot do both, and you cannot record both, or you would be doing the expense or sales twice. So what do I mean by that? If I did an invoice with a customer, and then when they paid me, I did a sales receipt, then that would show the revenue twice, and that's not really what happened. So if I did the invoice and when they paid me, I actually would have to do receive payment, because when I do receive payment, that actually just lowers the accounts receivable and increases cash. When you go to receive payment, QuickBooks already knows what accounts are affected by that. Okay, and with the vendor, with the expense, if I have a bill that came in and I input it as a bill, but then when I go to pay it, I wrote a check. Again, you've done that expense twice. You've acknowledged that expense twice by doing a bill and check. So with the workflow, it's one or the other. So here's some questions you might see here. To make receipt forward active, you'll need to enable a unique email address within the client's QuickBook Online. Where would you go to enable this feature? Well, that would be in the Banking Center. In the Receipts tab, you would go to Forward from Email. What are the 3 ways to capture bills and receipts so that they could be matched to transactions and added to the bank feed? You would do a file upload, forward by email, or via mobile app. What are 2 problems that the pay down credit card workflow solves for clients? It uses language that non-accountants can understand, and it ensures that payments to credit card accounts are categorized correctly. Your client wants to transfer money from their checking account into a savings account. Where should they go to record this transfer? You would go to +New, Transfer. What could be said about the transfer feature in QuickBooks Online? The transfer feature could be used to move funds between 2 balance sheet accounts. Which common workflow error can be caused by duplicate expenses in QuickBooks Online? Remember, I was saying if you create a bill and record a vendor expense, as well as you create a check for that same expense. You can't use both workflows, one or the other. So you can't do bill and check. The pay down credit card feature can be found in which area of QuickBooks Online? You'd go to the +New in the left-hand navigation, and you would see the pay down credit card feature there. Journal entries. My intro to accounting videos go over journal entries, debits and credits, adjusting entries, and closing entries. If you're not familiar with these topics, then you must go over those videos, because understanding journal entries is a huge part of bookkeeping. So if you don't know journal entries, the rules of debit and crediting, adjusting entries, and closing entries, please make sure you go over those videos. So here's an article I have on this particular topic. All right, creating a journal entry in QuickBooks Online. Journal entries are the last resort for entering transactions. They let you move money between accounts and force your books to balance in specific ways. Use them only if you're understanding accounting or you're following the advice of your accountant. You should also have a good understanding of debit and credits. That's what I was just telling you. It is important, and I tell business owners all that time. You must understand what debit, credit, and journalizing is. I really believe all business owners should know that, but especially bookkeepers. Here are a few reasons to create a journal entry. To enter debit and credits manually, like in a traditional accounting system, or to transfer money between income and expense accounts, or to transfer monies from an asset, liability, or equity account to an income or expense account. So how do you do it? You go to +New and then journal entry, and then you'll see account fields. You'll first put your debit, and then your credit, or if you have a compound entry, you'll put several debits or credits, but just know your debit and credits must equal one another. Once you're finished, you would click Save and New or Save and Close. All right, let's check out the accountant user screen. So +New journal entry. So let's see, am I still logged in here? Yes, I am. So I'm going to go to +New. Up. My internet is acting up a little. Give me a second, please. I feel like I'm in my classroom. All right, here we go. +New and Other. The fourth one down is journal entry. And the reason I wanted to show you in the accountant user, you would see a little box on the top right that you can check off if you're doing an adjusted entry. So since I'm in my QBOA account, because I'm an accountant user, in my QBOA, as well as if I go into my client's accounts, because I'm an accountant user, I will see this box right here is adjusting journal entry. And I would click here if it's an adjusting journal entry. Only accountant users will have access to that. So I didn't want, that's the only thing I really wanted to show you here. So let me, all right. Did it sign me out? All right. Next one is general journal entry details. You need to make sure that all your debits equal your credits. So total debits must equal total credits. You must select a customer for an accounts receivable and a vendor for accounts payable that you put in journal entries. You can post multiple accounts receivable or multiple accounts payable to one journal entry. So let's look at that in the test drive. That's wanted to make sure I signed out, and I am signed out. So let me come over here to this one. And let's see if I can access, hopefully I can access the test drive. So if you didn't know, you can't be in your QBO account and the test drive at the same time. QuickBooks gets a little confused with that. So let me see if I'm able to. Earlier today, I was in class and the test drive was acting up. And I thought, oh, this would be so horrible if you were using it. Oh, God, look, it was acting up earlier and now it's acting up again. I said, this would be so horrible if you were, wanting to sit down with a client that's on the fence on whether or not they want to use QuickBooks. I usually sit down with clients and I show them in the first or second meeting, well, why don't you look at what a QuickBooks Plus account looks like? And if this happens, it's a little embarrassing. It looks like, they don't have it together. And I don't think it's going to work. We were doing in class earlier the chapter 1 where we do the test drive, and it was acting up quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. I'll try one more time. Oh, third time's a charm, huh? All right. There we go. I feel like that happened to me earlier. Maybe I need to play that number. I feel like at the third time it worked for me. So, hey, for you viewer that's watching, if you're trying to get into test drive and you were having an issue, try it at least 3 times, because that happened to me earlier in class and now it happened to me again today. So I feel like the test drive is acting up. Maybe they're doing some changes to it, and that's probably what it is. They change it sometimes. There have been some changes. Oh, I'm glad I thought about this. If you guys noticed when you went to the ProAdvisor and the training, did you notice there were some changes to the interface there? So in section 1, I showed it to you and I said, oh, there's 3 tabs, and the third tab over is the certification tab. Well, oh, this is what happened to me earlier. Well, they made a change in that section. Now they have it in 4 tabs, and now you have to go to the 4th tab over to get to the certification training. And I think it's the 3rd tab over that you would click to take the test. So they did change the user interface in the ProAdvisor-Training section. So it has changed just in a week, because I just posted a week ago section 1. So if you have or haven't noticed, they have made that change. I'm trying one more time to see if this works. I wanted to show you the journal entry, but it's not. It doesn't look like it's going to work. So I can't show you, but take my word for it, or you go into the test drive and check it out for yourself. If you go into the journal entry, if you try to just put an accounts receivable in there and then you push save, it'll stop you. A pop-up window will come up and say you must assign a customer to accounts receivable, or if you try to do with accounts payable, it'll say you must assign a vendor to accounts payable. Then I also was going to show you can put multiple accounts receivable or multiple accounts payable into one journal entry. So I was going to show you that. I apologize, something's going on, and that's, I really hope QuickBooks handles that ASAP, because like I said, it happened to me earlier as well, and a student. So yeah, they need to make sure they handle that. Here's the this is the last question that I have, and then we'll just do a couple of random questions that were left over from the last time. Here's a journal question. Which statement about adjusting entries is true? Only an accountant user can create adjusting entries. So that's the answers. Only accounting users can. They're the only ones that'll see that little checkbox to say this is an adjusting entry. What 3 statements are true about recording journal entries? You need to make sure that total debits equal total credits. You can post multiple accounts receivable or multiple accounts payable in the same journal entry. And then when posting an accounts receivable, you must specify a customer. And then also, when posting an accounts payable, you must specify a vendor if that comes up. So I apologize I didn't give you for your visual learners. I wasn't able to show you that, but take my word for it. Or if you have a chance, go to the test drive and try it for yourself. Here's a few random questions that I, just figured, I didn't see them in the new one, but you never know. So you might want to put these in your notes. Subscription downgrade. When you downgrade a client subscription, what will be affected as a result of that downgrade? All discounts will be removed. And then also just notice some apps might also be affected. Work feature in the Work tab. The Work feature in QuickBooks Online Accountant allows you to create projects and tasks right from your Work dashboard for all your clients. If the client doesn't use QBO, you can add them as a client at the same time you create a project. You can assign project or special tasks to team members or yourself. You can manage requests and send messages to your client. You'll see a list of deadlines for your firm. You can set up recurring projects for clients, and you duplicate existing projects across multiple clients. So here's the training section. So you see here, we're in the Work tab, and they're showing you what the different things you can choose, everyone in the types. So here's your question. Which filter can be used to find a specific project when in the work area? A team member, and or a client, and or a project type. Those were those three sections I just showed you. How many tasks does QuickBooks Online allow you to assign to a project? There's no limit. No limit. So I don't know if this is going to be in another section or if it's just taken out completely, but I figured you could still have it in your notes. Quick Start templates. You can use QuickBooks Online Accountant standard templates if you're mapping out common series of tasks. You can adjust tasks, due dates, and assignees to tailor it to your needs. You can also duplicate these and use these as starting points to create fully customized projects without having to start from scratch. So I have here, these are the 4 quick start template names: biweekly payroll, client onboarding, monthly bookkeeping, and yearly taxes. And then they'll tell you here to create projects. So where would your client navigate within QuickBooks Online to see documents that you have shared with them? They would go to the My Accountant tab in the navigation, and then go to Shared Documents. Work area project templates. In which 2 ways can you create a customized template for a project? You can create a template from scratch, or you can duplicate one of those quick start templates I showed you. Client requests. You can track and edit all the requests in your work menu in your QuickBooks on Accountant. Here you can see all your requests by filtering for requests. You can filter requests further by client or the assignee in your team. You can select any request to edit it or respond to it, and you can change the status of the request using the drop-down. You can set the status to do, in progress, blocked, or done. Facts about creating a client request. A document request notification can be sent via email by selecting Notify Client. I don't have a checkbox there. A document request appears in the client's QuickBooks Online company in the My Accountant menu. And then okay, so we talked about the pay down credit card, but this question wasn't on there before, so I put it up here for you. You could take a snapshot or write it down. It talks about the different steps, like you go to plus sign new, and then you select pay down credit card in the other column, which is the 4th one over. When you go to plus sign new, the 4th one over is other column, and you'll see that. And then the next part is payee. So it says select the payee if applicable, and the last one is select save. So I have these here, and I have it in your notes. You never know, it could be added to the database at some time. Where do you go to change your work notification within QuickBooks Online? You go to gear icon, company settings, because remember in QBOA you don't have accountant settings, you have company settings. So you go to the gear icon, company settings, notifications, and then you select work notifications. Project that's on the accountant end in work tabs. These are the tabs for the projects created. So I have them here. You can have them in your notes, or you can take a quick snapshot. Now, project status in the work tab. Oh, I told you this earlier. Here's your status. You go to work status, drop down, and then you can select any of these: to do, in progress, blocked, done, or canceled. And on the client end, once the project feature is activated in QBO Plus or Advanced, the client can create their own projects in their project tab, and after the creation of creating that project, they will see the new project added to the list of projects in that tab. Each project needs to have a project name and be assigned a customer. The note field is optional. Each project needs a project. Oh, I have that. I said that already. I have that twice in there. Sorry. Each project has a status, which can be in progress, completed, and canceled. So this is something you could play with in, if you can get into it, the test drive, because that's a Plus account. So here's a question. What is the correct process of setting up a recurring project for the same client? You'd create a new project and use the repeat slider turn it on, and then set the frequency and duration after that. Add to a project. What could be added? You can add an invoice, receipt payment, expense, estimate, time, bill, purchase order. Undeposited funds. We actually talked about that last video, but here's a couple of questions that we did have prior in the section 3, and I thought I might as well have them here. I didn't remember seeing them in the last section. Undeposited funds is a temporary holding account that allows you to hold received payments until they clear your bank account. You would then create a single bank deposit transfer for multiple payments, making it easier for them and you to match the bank register with the bank statement. So I have the steps here. I actually did discuss those before. A client just received a customer payment and selected undeposited funds at the deposit to account. Later that day, they created a deposit transaction to group all the payments taken to the bank. Where can they view what has been deposited? You go to Sales Center, Invoices, select Deposited on the money bar. So if you remember, I actually did kind of show this to you in the last one. You would see, what it says there. By posting to undeposited funds, you can create a single bank deposit for multiple payments, making it easier, blank, to match your bank register with the bank statement. When receiving a payment, make sure the deposit to account is undeposited funds. Wait, when receiving, that doesn't sound right. This can't be right. When receiving the payment, make sure the deposit to account. No, actually receiving, you want to make sure that it deposited to the correct account. So this one's wrong. That one's wrong. You got to understand, back then too, I had old students sending me questions and I just put it down. Sometimes I wouldn't see what all the selections were. That last one's wrong. Firm users and their access. Firm users can be granted 3 levels of access: full access, basic access, and custom access. The question was here at the bottom. What 3 types of user? Okay, it just said full access, basic, and custom. It's been a long time since they had that question. Changing the lead. How does a client update the lead for their client in the QuickBooks Online? You would go to Clients, Filter, Edit Leads, select the new lead, and then click Save. And we should be coming to the end soon. Chart of accounts and plus, what's the maximum? 250. I haven't seen that question in a while either. 250 would be the max. Creating a customer statement. So we did have this. We did talk about customer statements earlier. It's just telling you the steps. I think I did that in this chapter. And here's the question. A client wants to know the easiest way to let a customer know which invoices are unpaid. Which feature would you suggest? Client statement. And here's the last one. Estimates, copy to purchase order. When using the copy to purchase order feature within the estimate tab, where do you need to turn on use purchase orders? You'd go to account settings, expenses tab, and then in there you'd see where you can turn on purchase orders. So this would end section 3. I'm going to try to get out section 4 in the next 4 to 5 days. Take into account Thanksgiving is in 2 days, so I might need an extra day or 2 because I'm cooking. All right. Thank you for watching.